I'm a criminal justice major, and I like to talk about, everything criminal justice, even though it's not really, a lot of people are surprised criminal justice is my forte because, I have a lot of other things going on. But, that is my major, what I majored in college and all that. So one of the things I like to do is explore cases and everything. And one of the cases I would like to talk about is Thomas Gilbert. Thomas Gilbert, he, killed his father, and they basically said it was all over his allowance getting slashed. He was getting $1,000 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he killed his father, Thomas Gilbert Sr. Basically how the events happened was basically his father, like I said, was giving him a $1,000 allowance, but his father basically felt like, okay, we paid for you to go to college. We've been paying your way your whole life.
Right.
Now it's time for you to be a man and get a career, get a job, and all this stuff. And his father basically threatened to cut the allowance to I think it was $100 a week or something like that, which obviously if he can't, he couldn't, he was going into a shock because he's like, oh my God, how am I going to go down to so little a week? So this is how the events in the media said how the events unfolded. He went to his father's, he went to his parents' house one day, and, when he got there, he was like, you know what, I think it was he asked for a Coke or something, I believe it was. Was it a Coke, Anthony? Do you read it was a Coke soda or something like that? It was a Coke soda. He asked for something that he knew his mom didn't keep in the house.
Right.
So his mom went to the store to go get this soda. She was excited that he came over to visit because I guess he hadn't been visiting, so she was just excited about that. So on her way to the store, she kind of got an uneasy feeling and decided to come back home. And then when she came back home, she found her husband dead in a pool of blood. Basically, what happened was, the police, are saying that it's looking like he basically tried to make it look like the father killed himself, and everything. And of course, it was a trial, and they tried to say he had some mental issues is why he did what he did. And the jury almost went with that theory. They came very close to going with that theory that he had mental issues. However, what made them change their mind about letting him go with that plea was the fact that, guess what, all over the Coke soda, because they said, wow, a person, they're thinking to themselves, like a person who did something irrational, they would, just do it spontaneously. But him, at that moment, they think that he does have mental issues. He might.
Yeah.
But they were saying, wow, at that particular moment, though, he had to be lucid enough to calculate the whole plan to ask for something that he know his mom didn't keep in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they're still trying to appeal it based on insanity. He was convicted to 30 years to life. And this happened back in 2015. And let's keep note, this is Thomas Gilbert Jr. This is not to be confused with the professional wrestler. But he is a Princeton graduate, and like you said, so there's a couple of notes here too. So not only was he getting $1,000 a week, so $52,000 untaxed dollars per year, he was also having his $2,400 a month rent paid for him. And this guy is a Princeton graduate. He had a degree, could have had a job, but this dad basically said, we're going to start taking some money away, and they did it gradually. But I think from what I was reading, it's by the time that it was down to about $200 a week is when he killed him. And from what I was reading, it looked like they had evidence of him actually visiting websites about hiring killers and stuff like that in his history browsing. So even after the fact, there was plenty of evidence to show that, regardless of his plea of insanity and mental health issues, of being mentally ill, it still was premeditated. It was definitely thought out. And so I don't know if he'll ever actually win an appeal to say, well, I get, to get insanity plea. But it is interesting. I mean, he's a guy who comes from the background of wealth, and because of that was put into positions that wealthy people get put into. I mean, he was able to go to Princeton, who knows on what accolades, and graduate. So he had what he needed to do to pick up the reins from there, but he was so dependent on living what appears to be a lavish lifestyle. Because when I was reading his allowance, and I mean, they paid his rent again, but his allowance was really going towards like fancy subscriptions for like country clubs or sporting events, eating out, things like that. So he really was living for free, and he was living in a high life, and he didn't have to work for it. So it's almost like entitlement is the straw that broke the camel's back, and he just didn't want to have to work for that kind of a lifestyle. And it's unfortunate for his father. His father was a wealthy man. He was a hedge fund manager, so he was of a lot of wealth. And he was trying to do what he felt was right by his son, and this is the outcome.
And apparently, this is Jake Gyllenhaal. I keep pronouncing it right. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, he's gonna make a movie. I guess he might play that role.
Yeah, I heard about that. They were gonna do a film about it. I don't know when that came up as a potential idea. I don't know if there's any follow through with that. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm sure a lot of stuff's on hold again because of COVID and everything. But I could totally see it, and I hope that if Jake does it, I hope he goes all out, dyes his hair blonde and everything, and really, I think this could really be like really like the role. You know how you have a lot of people have that role. Like if he really played the role, I think he could really like, that could be like his Oscar turn or something. You know what I mean? I think I could definitely see a lot of, I mean, this definitely does have, as a lot of made for real life stories, this definitely has like a lot of elements in it. And if you look at Thomas Gilbert, I mean, he had it all. He had wealthy parents, he was handsome, he had the looks, everything. So he had a life full of potential, and then that one moment just cost him everything. And like the mother said, even after all that, she said that, she believes he did have mental issues, and maybe had they sought help for him earlier, he would have, things would have been different. You know what I mean? Well, and I think even that day when he came to visit the dad was a little hopeful. He was like, okay, well maybe he's finally ready to mature and grow up. You know what I mean? So it's really, looking at it, he might have had some mental issues. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
but to me also, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was actually reading, so she had an interview with New York Post. And in her interview with New York Post, she had said that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia while he was still in Princeton. So he did have the diagnosis, and he was put on medication. She told the Post that they've been trying to get him in the hospital for about 15 years, and they just never could. So for her, it really is related to. Now, I don't know what his treatment status was. We don't know if he was still on meds or if he stopped his meds, if he was seeking further treatment, even though he never was hospitalized. So I don't know where all those details lie in terms of to date, because having schizophrenia, you can have that with or without psychotic symptoms, although with is a lot more common, and it's what we kind of expect in schizophrenic patients. But things like this, I mean, it's still a premeditated reality, and putting it back to the Jake Gyllenhaal thing, I think even if you look at their images side by side, I feel like he's physically just a good fit for it. I like Jake as an actor. I think he would be able to pull the role off. And I wonder if it would explore even the prison time, because like would it explore from would it be the build up, would it be the backstory, the build up and the murder, and then the trial? Would it be post trial in prison? I mean, we've seen the before and after pictures, and this Tommy Gilbert Jr. has definitely gone through a physical transformation in just 4 years in prison. So I wonder if it'll dive into that at all.
Exactly. But is he even in prison, or is he in like I wonder if he's even in prison, or if he's in like some kind of other special, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because he was sentenced to 30 years to life. and I don't know. I would imagine that he was put straight into prison for, for what was convicted as a murder. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean he's not receiving some type of psychiatric care while he's in there. Usually that would be the case, and depending on the situation, he might even be separated from the general population if he's seen to be a continued risk or anything like that.
Well, I guess, like I said, and honestly, too, being as though I think he has a sister, but being like his mother's like older now and everything,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's probably going to have to really pretty much spend the rest of his life, like,
Right.
Being under some kind of supervision regardless.
Exactly.
It's very unfortunate. Like I said, he had like a lot of potential. And maybe he did have the schizophrenia thing, but I guess at the end of the day, the jurors felt as though he had a lucid moment to plan out everything. So
Absolutely.
maybe if it had been a more of a random type thing, then and honestly too, I do believe that maybe I'm not going to say it's the parents' fault, but a lot of times, well, we could even use it for like we could use unemployment, for instance. Like, you give everybody all this extra money that some people that normally don't make that much. Then you kind of just yank it away from them. And then if they don't use it right, they kind of go into like a shock. You know what I mean? So maybe in his case, the parents, they basically carried him his whole life. So to one day just be like, you're not getting this anymore. Maybe it should have been kind of like gradually weaned off, like, okay, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know, like maybe I would have said, I don't know if the parents were going to cut off just the allowance and the housing, I don't know. But, I think they should have kind of like eased it off, you know what I mean?
Well, to my understanding, that was the plan. Well, at least not the rent, but it was just the allowance that they were cutting, to my understanding. But the idea, from what I read, was that it was supposed to be gradual, but the initial cut was like $200 a week. I mean, $200 a week is $800 a month. So I mean, that's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would have took care of his basic stuff like food and everything. And I'm still
Yeah,
kind
they
of
still do
confused.
probably.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of confused about the father's wealth. Like, some say he was rich. Some people say other things, that they were comfortable. So I really don't know. I'm still kind of confused. I mean, obviously he had to have some sort of money to help his son keep up that lifestyle. But then you have to think about it too as well. If the son probably had more of an active lifestyle than the parents did. So if you keep paying for someone to have this active lifestyle like that, you're thinking about it, you're kicking out almost $5,000. You're kicking out almost $5,000 a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, 6,400 a month
Yeah.
for your
So you're
son.
kicking out
And still
like
paying your own.
you're kicking out like 5,000 a month. So, you have to think like that adds up after a while with everybody. You know what I mean? So if you're paying like 5,000 a month for this person's bill, then,
Right.
you got 5,000, and you got your own bills, that's almost like 10,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Quite a bit of money.
yeah. So like I said, we'll follow the case a little bit further, but right now, all I'm going to say is that I don't think there's really too much that's going to really happen with that. He might try to appeal it, but I just don't think it's at a standstill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also I would like to add too, I like to throw something else in here because we talked about Lori Vallow a few weeks ago. I think they released like the call where the boyfriend or the husband was telling her that they're searching the yard for the kids. What I mean? I didn't say he didn't say for kids, but they're searching the yard. Now obviously that's where they found the kids and stuff like that or whatever. So like I said,
Yeah.
we'll keep you up to date on this. We're going to start doing more investigative conversations. We're going to start analyzing cases like that. And Anthony, I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight, sir.
Thank you.